What are archetypes? What is the shadow? Today we're going to be diving into specifically the saboteur energy and how that is breaking your relationship, how it is holding you back from having the results that you actually want. Welcome to the R.Y.S.E Movement Podcast, a place where men just like you learn to raise your standards everywhere. Welcome to another episode of the R.Y.S.E Movement Podcast. I'm Dave, and in this one, like I said, we're going to be talking all about shadow, archetypes, and specifically the saboteur. So I got this book here, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. It's written by Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette. This book here is a really good understanding for your development, your psychology around going from an immature masculine to the mature masculine, or going into, some people call it the divine masculine. I like to think of masculinity as just masculinity. When it comes to masculinity, there's the light and then there's the shadow. There's always a shadow. Wherever the light casts, you will have shadow behind that thing. The way that I want to describe the shadow without getting too technical, it is that part of you that you don't know about. It is the part of you that hides behind the scenes, that sits in the darkness, that is all of your repressions, all of the things that you push away. It is the things that you don't want to look at. It is the animating energy that can feel like sometimes that it makes you do things. It makes you self-sabotage. It creates a little victim persona, makes you act like a child, and it also sets your body on fire to keep other people warm. It essentially prostitutes your body. So let's go through the light archetypes first, just briefly, because I want to do a whole series on these and each archetype. So we've got the lover. The lover is the instigational energy. And what that means is the creation energy. It's the one that starts everything. So with the R.Y.S.E movement, everything that comes from the R.Y.S.E movement is instigational in nature. It means it's a starting point. To raise your standards everywhere is to do lover energy. The lover energy is all about standards, requirements, values, beliefs, and setting the bar. When it comes to setting the bar, if you don't consciously set the bar, that's the prostitute energy. Everything that is inside of your body is for sale. It means your values are for sale. It can be put in by someone else. Your beliefs, exactly the same thing. Your standards can be very, very low, or you can negotiate your standards. The thing with the standard is it's a non-negotiable. It is something that is inbuilt, imprinted into everything that you are, regardless of what's going on, regardless of what your psychology is doing, regardless of what your emotions are doing, and regardless of what the outside world is doing. Next one we're going to talk about is the king. This is the sovereign energy. The king is the decision maker. The king energy is about standing in your domain, making a decree and saying it will be so. The lover hands the instigational energy, hands the standards, requirements, values, and beliefs off to the king energy, and the king energy enacts it and says, this is so. Let it be known that it is here and it will always be here. The king is also the fluent communicator. Then all of those two energies are passed off to the warrior. The warrior is the doer. The warrior is the one who goes out, moves hell and high water, and is unrelenting, continually moving forward, continually acting, continually taking names. The warrior is also exactly what its name is. It's the fighter. It's the one who stands for no injustice. It's the one who does the right thing because the right thing is the only thing that it knows how to do. It is the one who stands up for people, is the one who stands up for himself, is the one who holds all of the boundaries, all of the standards, all the requirements of your values and beliefs, and never lets anything go below. Now, the magician energy. This is your manifestation powers. The manifestation powers of the magician, think like Merlin and the Knights of the Round Table. Merlin is the one who is behind the scenes, the archetype that is creating all of the wondrous magician energy behind the scenes for King Arthur. It is also like Albus Dumbledore in the Harry Potter series. That is the archetype of the magician. He is the grand wizard. He is the smartest, the most magical of all. And you've also got his shadow side, which is Voldemort, which is the saboteur. When it comes to the shadows of each, you have to be careful, because if you are operating in one area of shadow, you're operating in all areas of shadow. So the areas of shadow are the prostitute for the lover, the saboteur for the magician, the victim for the warrior or the hero, and the child for the king. So when it comes to self-sabotage, what you're actually doing is you're manifesting all the things that you don't want because you want to stay safe. When it comes to self-sabotaging, a lot of the time when it comes to insecurities or when it comes to traumas, when it comes to relationships, jobs, not getting ahead, finances, gambling, all these sorts of things, these are the things holding you back where you currently are because you don't have high enough standards from the lover archetype. And so this is a very technical way of saying you need to hold your standards up. You need to raise your standards everywhere, have discipline, persistence, consistency, all the rest of the things that we've spoken about in many podcast episodes now to be able to make sure that you know how to move forward without sacrificing your body, without sacrificing your values, your beliefs, your standards, requirements, all these sorts of things. The lover energy is the one who sets the standard, and then the magician is the one who manifests your reality. So it all comes back full circle. If you don't have strong enough magic energy, if you don't have strong enough determination and creation and manifestation ability going on, you're probably manifesting the things that you don't want because it's easier to stay safe. It's easier to stay stuck. It's easier to fuck up a relationship if you've got insecurities. So why do we have insecurities, especially in relationships? Why do we have these things? A lot of the time, they're learned behaviors. I'm going to tell you guys a story, as I often do. I was horrible at relationships in my early 20s. It wasn't until I met Rach where her secure attachment style was, actually she's a little bit avoidant at the start, but she was very secure as well. With her attachment style for the relationship, it created a space for me to be able to work through my shit. Previous relationships, I'd been cheated on a bunch of times. I'd also cheated on girlfriends. Like I've said many times, I manipulated and did all the things. When it came to that saboteur energy to be able to destroy things because I didn't believe I was worth them, it's something that was hard for me to deal with because deep down I believed that I was a failure. Deep down I didn't want success. I didn't want love. I didn't want any of the good things because I believed I wasn't worth it. And I know many of you guys out there believe that you're not worthy. I know many of you guys out there believe that, your missus is going to leave you all of a sudden and you're going to be left on your own with it, without being able to see your kids and, financially distraught because of the breakup and all the rest of the things. That saboteur energy, that sabotage is the thing that is holding you back from a life of greatness. And it's also the thing that's holding you back to be able to enact new standards. Because if you're, like I said before, if you're in one shadow, you're in all of them. And the way that these shadow energies work, think of it like this. It is the animating spirit that possesses you. So remember how I always talk about in between stimulus and then response or reaction, there's a gap. This is your chance to be able to create a bit more standards, a little bit more magician energy inside of there from a higher decree that the king sets and then enacted by the warrior and say, this is how I react, this is how I respond, this is what I do, this is it. And so whenever it comes to choosing, you have the ability to make a higher choice. Another one of my favorite sayings is from Albert Einstein, you can't solve a problem from the same level of mind that created it. So with that, knowing your standards, knowing your requirements, knowing that king sovereign energy that makes the decree, if your body is for sale, if your standards and requirements are for sale, you're prostituting yourself and you're also self-sabotaging at the same time because you feel like a little victim because that little child inside of yourself hasn't been satisfied. Think about what I just said there. All of them are intertwined with one another. Whenever you go to self-sabotage and you go to blow up your relationship or your job or you go gamble or any of these sorts of things, that's because if you're in one, you're in all of them. Now do you guys understand why it's so important to raise your standards everywhere? And not just raise your standards everywhere, take massive fucking action towards decreeing it and then get to work. It's like, if you raise your standards and it's just what you say. It's like, yes, here's my new standards. This is what I'm going to do. And you tell the world, everyone's going to look at you like you're a fucking idiot. Just go do it. Just get it done. It's like, I'm going to the gym. I'm going to tell the world, no, just go to the fucking gym. I'm going to start eating healthy. I'm going to tell the world I'm starting a new diet. No, shut the fuck up and get to work. Once you enact that standard for yourself and you say, line in the sand, decree starts now. This is as it is and it will always be from here until I make another decision, then get to work. You don't need to tell the world. You don't need to make it well known. Just get to work. The big thing about social media in this day and age is everyone talks. Everyone's opinion is valid. And granted, I'm just some dickhead here on a podcast telling you guys what I know, thanks to the hundreds of books that I've read behind me and the hundreds of hours of personal development, psychology, coaching, therapy, counseling, like all the different modalities that I've been through, because this is what I do. This is my purpose. Like I can't not do this. When it comes to the saboteur energy, like I was talking about, you will destroy things because you don't believe that you're good enough, that you don't believe that you're worthy. And it almost feels good. It's like, yeah, of course this blew up in my face. I don't deserve shit. Of course it blew up in my face. Why would I have anything good going for me? I'm always going to do this. Notice the temporal aspect of the words that I use there. I'm always going to be like this. That word always and never, infinitives they're called, they are the most false language you can use. So if you're the one who's saying, oh, you're always like this, or I'm always like this, I'm never going to change. That fixed mindset, that temporal belief that things are always going to be as they are, that's holding you back as well. That's self-sabotage. That belief, always or never, infinitives, they are the most false things that you can say. Nothing ever stays the same. Everything is always in a changing place. It's always in a state of flux. Everything always changes. That's the only time you can use always and never, because change is the only thing that happens. It's the only universal constant that we know. Things are always going to change. So if that's the only presupposition you need to know when it comes to those two words and the way that you phrase them, you can change anything in your life. You can change your energy, you can change your mindset, change your emotions, change your traumas, you can heal, integrate, and do anything. However, you have to stop self-sabotaging. Self-sabotaging is one of the things that men do great, especially in this day and age of the MGTOW movement, men going their own way. That whole movement started from a place of victim and saboteur. It's like, I don't want to be in a relationship anymore because my wife is a bitch, and all these sorts of things, and the feminist movement and blah, 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 blame, point the finger externally everywhere instead of taking responsibility. Your relationship is 50% your relationship is 50% your fault and your responsibility. So take your end of the agreement. If your partner isn't going to be the one to be able to bring compromise and negotiation and clear, effective communication, it's over. Same thing in the workplace, same thing with yourself when it comes to your finances and all your standards and everything like that. You have your own personal archetypes, but then there's also archetypes inside of the relationship as well. Stop self-sabotaging. So some self-sabotaging things that can look like inside of a relationship are, for instance, I don't have a phone on me. Yeah, I don't have a spare phone. But let's say, hypothetically, you guys go out to dinner, your partner flips her phone upside down. What does that mean? You guys just came up with a bunch of shit inside of your head as soon as I said that. That can be a bunch of red flags, or that can be the fact that your missus threw her phone on the table and it doesn't matter. You're the only one that makes that mean something. So if you have a charge around that specific behavior of turning the phone over, you need to look at that. That's your issue. Granted, it might be driven in fact, it might be some validity to it, some truth to it. However, that's where clear, effective communication comes in and says, hey, I feel insecure and worried and concerned and paranoid when you do this behavior. Can you please talk about it? Can you please tell me what's going on? Oh no, I just threw my phone down. Or she'll say something shady, or she'll flat out go, yeah, like there's things that I don't want you to see because you blow up and you get paranoid. So it's all about managing yourself, managing your responses, managing your internal environment. That used to be a massive red flag for me. When Rach and I got together, we used to go out to dinner and she was terrible with her phone. She still is pretty terrible with her phone. And this day and age of technology and ease of access to people, like I had high expectations and entitlement that if I text her, she'd text back. Like, how gross is that? And so she had to tell me, no, I don't care about my phone. My phone is not an extension of me. It doesn't matter. If I get back to you late, just know that I was busy. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. And I said, okay, can you please make it easier for me? Because I've had partners that have cheated on me in the past. And every time that their phone was face down, it was because there was a bunch of Snapchats of dudes doing their thing, or, text messages or whatever it is, Tinder and Bumble and all that kind of crap. And she said, okay, I understand. I hear you. From now on, I'm not going to do that. And she hasn't since. There's been a few times where her phone's been face down, but that's just because she's literally frisbeed it. And so now I look at it and I can have that awareness inside of myself and go, okay, track record, almost 8.5 years of being together. How many times have I caught her doing something that is dubious or, behind my back or anything like that? Never. What's my track record with her when it comes to communication, when it comes to any insecurity that I'm feeling that I voice to her and then she goes, yep, cool, we can work on this. Always. That's the only time I'll ever use that word. So I have a track record to prove to that shadow part of myself that there's no point in self-sabotaging this. There's no point bringing it to the relationship because her track record sets it true. Now, I'm not going to ignore red flags in the future. God forbid if they happen, if all of a sudden something starts changing and I'm going to notice her behavior is different, there's things that are going on that gets my spidey senses up, I'm going to address it. I'm going to address it from that place of, hey, when you do this, I feel this. Can we talk about it, please? And so I'm not self-sabotaging. I'm not, turning a blind eye and getting blindsided by something that is a potential of, getting cheated on or something like that. But it's just not in the scope right now. It's not a possibility. It's not a probability. I don't have to worry about that because we have such a great relationship of open, honest communication between one another. Some other things that used to happen when it came to work. I had this story inside of my head. So 2015, Rach and I first got together and like 2 months into dating, she's like, oh, I'm going to uni. And I was like, sweet, that's awesome. What are you doing? She goes, I'm going to study my RN, registered nurse. And then I was like, okay, cool. That's really, really good. Good on you. She was an assistant in nursing working in an aged care home and she really, really wanted to become a fully qualified nurse. And so all of a sudden, my mind created this story. Thanks to all my insecurities, thanks to, my hang-ups from relationships and me being a control freak because I was so scared of losing control. All of a sudden I created this story that she's going to go start working in a hospital and there's going to be some good-looking young doctor who's rich and, he's got all the things, he's got the car and all the rest of it. He's going to sweep her off her feet and she's going to be taken from out underneath me. Some other man is going to steal me. I used to project that onto her all the time. I used to literally push that on her shoulders and be like, I'm such a failure. I don't deserve this relationship. You're going to leave me for this, good looking young doctor. And she was a month into uni. That's where I started that story. That was an insecurity. That was me self-sabotaging the relationship because I didn't believe that I deserved her. A lot of my problems came down to the way that I dealt with relationships in the past. So there's a thing called perception is projection. Your shadow will project thoughts into your mind that you project onto other people, and then you pretty much anchor them in that box. It's like, the picture that you have in your mind for female, it's like, yep, there's a bunch of presuppositions inside of this box, and that's only what female looks like. They cheat, they lie, they, blah, 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 all those sorts of things, all these negative projections. That's your shadow projecting your insecurities, your saboteur energy, your victim energy into that archetype of the female, of that picture of the female and going, this is all they can do. Don't believe me? Pull apart the last lot of relationships. What has each partner done and what's the common theme between them? The common theme is you. You're the one with the insecurities. You're the one with the hang-ups. You're the one who's cheated. You're the one who's done all the fucking things that's manipulated and gaslit them so that now you don't trust females because you don't actually trust yourself. Because deep down you don't feel worthy to be able to have that relationship. Deep down you know that it's a lot easier to be able to fuck females over and over and over again than it is to commit and be truthful and have open communication and build a relationship that actually matters because you're terrified it's going to blow up in your face. How do I know this? Because that's how I've perceived relationships. Every single one in my family has been divorced at least once. My father, he was divorced 3 times. My mother, only once. My uncle, 2 of my uncles have been divorced once. One of them has been divorced twice. Everyone has fucked up in my family because they're just a lot of, especially the Hungarian side, they're all low people, low IQ, low emotional intelligence. They are lost souls. And it's no skin off my teeth. However, that's the shit that I role modeled from them because they were a perfect beacon of light to say what not to do when it came to relationships. So when it came to Rach and getting married and stuff like that, me proposing in October of 2020, that was me saying, all right, I'm over my insecurities. This is a show of faith and trust in the relationship and trust in our future. I'm literally betting on our future to say that this will work unequivocally, hands down, till death do us part. I know what it's like to be terrified of relationships. I know what it's like to treat women as objects. I know what it's like to treat women as sex toys. That's basically how it happened. It was easy. Being in a relationship, a committed relationship till death do us part, that takes work. And that's why there's so many guys, men, going their own way. Because it's a hell of a lot easier to go your own way and be single and, not have to worry about women than it is to put in the effort into yourself to be able to stop sabotaging, stop being a victim, stop prostituting yourself, and stop being a child, than it is to put it into a relationship and build something beautiful. That takes fucking work. So stop sabotaging and get to work. Build something of greatness. Build a relationship of greatness, build trust, build intimacy and connection. And do that for every other area of life. Do that in your friendships so that you have friendships that have so much depth, so much intimacy and connection that they just ooze love. Over the weekend, I had 2 birthday parties for my best friend's son's birthday. These birthdays with the little ones, there was nothing but love around. That is the type of friendship that I have with my friends. I adore them. I love them inside and out. And they love me. And I know they love me. And we're getting better at communicating it because as guys with all of our conditioning and things from our childhoods that we were shown and, brought up with and told, it's hard to break through that barrier. But there's a lot more hugging, there's a lot more connection and deep communication and stuff like that. And it's really beautiful. Like I've been best friends with my mate Skin for 21 years. We met in week 3 of week 3 of grade 8 in 2002. Jimmy, met him end of 2006 at Indy in Surfers Paradise. And I was 17, he was, I think, 18. And him and Tim, other Tim, we were actually going to get into a punch-on. Because I had a friend at the time and he had a girlfriend and he was jealous that his girlfriend was talking to Tim and Jimmy. And so we almost ended up in a punch-on and now we're all best friends. And that was 2006. Yeah, it's funny how things happen, isn't it? Anyway, there is so much love, connection, beauty, there's actual true intimacy between my brothers and I. And I'm so thankful for it. And it takes work. You can't sabotage. Can't sabotage anymore. You're worth more than that. So get to work. Speaking of work, time for me to get off and go train some people and coach some people. Have an amazing day, men. Much love. Take care until I see you next time. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for subscribing and leaving a review. It really helps us out. Until next time, take care and much love.